They didn't just ban these songs, they tried to erase them. Governments, police organizations, U.S. senators, all of them threatened by music. This is the 1990s story they never taught you. 10 rock songs, 10 battles with power, and the musicians who refused to back down. Number 10, Radiohead Creep. I want you to think back to 1992. You're flipping through radio stations and the whole world feels like it's cracking open. Nirvana just changed everything. Grunge is everywhere. Bands are suddenly allowed to be messy and honest and broken in ways they weren't allowed to be before. And then this song comes on. Quiet at first, almost gentle. A guy singing about feeling like he doesn't belong anywhere, feeling worthless, feeling like he's watching his own life from the outside. It's one of the most vulnerable songs you've ever heard, and somebody decided that was a problem. Creep was released in September 1992 on Parlophone Records. It was produced by Sean Slade and Paul Q. Coldery and recorded at Chipping Norton Recording Studios in Oxfordshire, England. The song was written by the whole band: Tom York, Johnny Greenwood, Colin Greenwood, Ed O'Brien, and Phil Selway, though the chord structure owes a debt to a certain 1970s song that ended up in a legal settlement. The lyrics are completely exposed. It's a man watching someone he's in love with and believing he's not good enough to exist in the same world as her. That's it. No aggression, no politics, just brutal, unfiltered self-doubt. BBC Radio 1 banned it almost immediately. Their reason, and this is real, was that the song was too depressing and too morbid for general daytime listening. The word creep, used as self-description, was considered too negative. The song barely charted on first release in the UK. It was dead in the water. But here's what happened next. The band generated curiosity. Word spread, import copies sold. It started getting massive traction in Israel, of all places. Where it hit number 1, that international buzz eventually forced a re-release in 1993, and the rest is history. Here's something that blows people's minds when they hear it. Radiohead actually hated Creep when it came out. Tom York publicly called it a rubbish song. They thought it was weak and too simple. They refused to play it live for years after it became a hit. So you have this situation where the BBC banned a song, the band itself didn't want to exist, and the combination of those two forces accidentally turned it into one of the most recognizable rock songs of the entire decade. The Creep band feels almost funny in hindsight. Too depressing? Mate, the whole decade was depressing. But that's exactly the point. In 1992, BBC Radio 1 was still operating like a 1970s institution. Honesty about pain was considered dangerous to listeners, like people couldn't handle hearing someone feel bad about themselves. What they actually couldn't handle was how real it was. And real things make institutions nervous. That's number 10. Next up, a song built around orchestral strings, written about childhood pain, banned for telling too much truth, and the BBC pulled the trigger again. Number 9, the Smashing Pumpkins, Disarm. Picture Billy Corgan in 1993. The band has just survived recording Siamese Dream sessions so brutal that Corgan played almost every instrument himself because the band was falling apart. He's pouring everything he never said out loud into this album, and right in the middle of it is this fragile, aching orchestral song that sounds like someone quietly bleeding out. You've never heard a heavy rock band do something this delicate. It's almost classical, and underneath that beauty is something raw and personal that clearly scared somebody. Disarm was recorded at Triclops Sound Studios in Atlanta and Soma Studios in Chicago, produced by Corgan and Butch Vig, the same man who produced Nevermind. It was released as a single from Siamese Dream on Virgin Records in 1994. The song is autobiographical. Corgan has spoken openly about his difficult childhood and the emotional damage left behind. The lyrics reference cutting imagery and a painful relationship with a parent. BBC Radio 1 banned it on those grounds, citing content that could be interpreted as depicting child abuse and self-harm. Despite the UK ban, Disarm reached number 11 on the UK singles chart. It got heavy MTV rotation in the US and helped push Siamese Dream to number 4 on the Billboard 200. It became one of the signature songs of the alt-rock era. The string arrangement you hear on Disarm was performed by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Think about that. One of the most respected classical ensembles in America played on a song that a major radio broadcaster decided was too dangerous to air. There's something poetic about that contradiction that I don't think has ever fully been appreciated. Corgan pushed back hard on the ban. He said the song was survivor's music. It was about living through something painful and still being here. It was not an instruction manual for harm, it was the opposite. It was proof that you can feel all of that and come out the other side.
Thank you, we love you.
The BBC's decision robbed a whole generation of UK listeners of that conversation, and that's a real loss. That's number 9. Coming up, a song so deceptively happy that millions of people sang along to it for months before anyone realized what it was actually about.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history, and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful. Number 8, Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Life.
And she comes round and she goes down on me, and I make you smile like a drug for you.
It's summer 1997, you've got the windows down. This song is absolutely everywhere, on the radio, in the mall, at the petrol station. It sounds like pure joy. It sounds like falling in love on a perfect afternoon. It has this jangly, bouncy, irresistible melody that just sticks to your brain and won't let go, and then someone actually listens to the words. Semi-Charmed Life was produced by Eric Valentine and recorded in San Francisco. It was released on Elektra Records as the lead single from Third Eye Blind's debut album. Stephen Jenkins wrote it, and he wasn't writing fiction. The song is a detailed, first-person account of crystal meth addiction. The verses describe the high, the craving, the physical sensation, and the spiral downward. Jenkins has confirmed in interviews that the song came directly from his own experience during that period of his life. When radio programmers and parents finally connected the lyrical dots, which took longer than you'd think because the chorus sounds so relentlessly upbeat, the backlash came fast. Stations across the US pulled it from rotation or edited it down to almost nothing. Some ran only the chorus. The irony was fully visible by then. Millions of people had already spent months memorizing a meth addiction anthem, thinking it was a summer love song. It still hit number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. The melody was already inside everyone's head before the band could do anything about it. This is arguably the most successful Trojan horse in pop radio history. A song about crystal meth got onto family-friendly daytime radio. I stayed there for months and made it onto countless compilation albums aimed at teenagers. The system that was supposed to protect people from exactly this kind of content completely missed it because it was hiding inside something that sounded too good to question. The radio ban on Semi-Charmed Life came too late to matter commercially, but what it showed was a real flaw in how radio gatekeeping worked in the 90s. Content was being judged on surface, on tone, on melody, on how something felt in the first 10 seconds. Nobody was actually listening. Jenkins wasn't hiding anything. He put it all in the verses. The system just wasn't paying attention. That's number 8. Next, a band that hid absolutely nothing. Everything was right there on the screen, and MTV still hit them with a complete ban. Number 7, Soundgarden. Jesus Christ Pose. I need you to understand something about Soundgarden before we get into this. This was not a band that played it safe, ever. Chris Cornell had a voice that sounded like something that shouldn't be physically possible, this 4-octave instrument that could go from a whisper to something that felt like it was tearing the walls apart. Jesus Christ Pose is one of the most ferocious tracks they ever recorded. It hits you immediately. No build-up, no easing in, just full force from the first second, and the video matched it. And that's where the trouble started. The song was released in 1991 on A&M Records from the album Bad Motorfinger. It was produced by Terry Date and Soundgarden themselves. The recording was done at London Bridge Studio in Seattle, right at the heart of the scene that was about to take over the world. The lyrics, according to Cornell, are not an attack on Christianity. The song is about people, celebrities, politicians, public figures who adopt a martyr pose for image purposes, who perform suffering and sacrifice without having actually endured anything. It's a critique of fake victimhood and borrowed pain. MTV banned the video completely. No edited version, no compromise. Religious organizations had contacted MTV directly to complain about the imagery, multiple figures shown in crucifixion poses, including women. MTV cited the imagery as deliberately blasphemous and offensive to Christian viewers. Soundgarden refused to change a single frame. The standoff held, and the song never got standard MTV promotion in America during its most important commercial window. Cornell gave multiple interviews trying to explain what the song was actually about. He was patient and detailed. He wanted people to understand the satire. Almost nobody in the media that was criticizing the video bothered to engage with the explanation. The narrative had already been set, and the real meaning got buried under the outrage. Jesus Christ Pose is one of the most technically extraordinary pieces of music Soundgarden ever put together. Coming out the Lord, will it pain you for The riff, the structure, Cornell's performance, it's astonishing. And because of a video ban at the exact moment, the band needed that exposure. Millions of people who would have connected with it never got the chance. That's a real cost, not just commercially, artistically. That's number 7. Up next, a video that won 4 MTV awards from the same channel that banned the original version. That contradiction is one of the strangest things in 90s music history. Number 6, Pearl Jam, Jeremy.
Top, lemon yellow sun, arms raised and
You know this song. Of course you do, but I want you to come back to it fresh for a minute because what happened to it after release is something most people don't fully know. Jeremy hit you in a place you didn't expect. It wasn't angry in the way a lot of grunge was angry. It was something sadder and more complicated than that. It was about a boy who nobody saw coming, a boy who felt invisible until it was too late.
and he hit me with the surprise left.
Jeremy was produced by Rick Parashar and Pearl Jam. It was released on Epic Records in 1992 from the album 10. Eddie Vedder wrote the lyrics after reading a newspaper report about a 15-year-old boy named Jeremy Wade Dell, a student at Richardson High School in Texas who had shot himself in front of his English class on the 8th of January 1991. Vedder also drew on his own experiences of isolation and being overlooked as a teenager. The song wasn't just about Jeremy Dell. It was about every kid who felt that invisible. The original uncensored video, directed by Mark Pellington, showed the climactic moment clearly, the boy ending his life in front of his classmates. MTV pulled the unedited version after school shootings in 1994 and again in 1997, raised alarm about the imagery. A censored version was substituted that cut away before the critical moment, making the ending ambiguous. Here's the part that still feels surreal. That censored version went on to win 4 MTV Video Music Awards in 1993, including Video of the Year. MTV gave its highest honor to a video it had already decided to suppress. Vedder has spoken about this in interviews with real frustration. He said the censored version actually changed the meaning of the song. By removing the explicit moment, some viewers interpreted the ending as the boy shooting his classmates, rather than himself, the exact opposite of what the song was about. The censorship introduced an ambiguity that wasn't there before. It made the story darker than Vedder intended, not safer. Jeremy was Vedder trying to force people to look at what happens when kids feel completely unseen. And did the opposite of what he wanted. It made the most important moment in the story disappear. The conversation the song was designed to start got shut down before it could begin. And Jeremy Wade Dell's story, the real boy, got buried under all of it. That's number 6. We're halfway through this countdown, and the next entry is where the whole 90s culture war over rock music comes into sharp focus. This is where it stops being about video imagery and starts being about what a song is actually saying. Number 5, Nirvana, Rape Me. By 1993, Kurt Cobain was the biggest rock star in the world, and he was exhausted by it. Genuinely, painfully exhausted. In Utero was supposed to be his way of clearing the room, of making something so uncompromising that the mainstream audiences who turned Nevermind into a phenomenon would back away and leave him alone. It didn't work. Nothing kept those audiences away. But In Utero did something important. It showed you exactly how much Cobain was willing to say out loud when he was angry. In Utero was produced by Steve Albini and released on DGC Records in September 1993. It was recorded at Pachyderm Durham Studio in Cannon Falls, Minnesota. Rape Me was one of the tracks that caused immediate, sustained institutional panic before most people had even heard the album. MTV refused to promote the song or air any version of it. Multiple radio stations across the US and internationally refused airplay. Walmart and Kmart refused to stock In Utero at all unless the track listing was altered. They got their way. A sanitized retail version was produced where the song appeared under the title Waif Me, and the album cover was changed to remove certain imagery. Multiple countries blocked broadcast. The response was coordinated and swift, and almost entirely based on the title, not on the song itself. Now here's where I need you to really pay attention, because this is the entry I want to spend time on. Earlier in this countdown, I said some of these bands had nothing to do with the music. This is the clearest example of that. Cobain said repeatedly in interviews, in his own words, that Rape Me was an anti-rape song. Yeah, he said it was written from the perspective of a survivor, someone who has been violated, who is looking their attacker in the eye and saying, "You will not destroy me. You can do what you want to me, but I am still here." He drew comparisons to the way protest songs had always worked. Johnny Cash sang about shooting a man. Bob Dylan sang about murder ballads. The singer is not always the character. That's how art works. Some people completely accept that reading. They say the song is a powerful, raw statement of survival, and that every institution that banned it was guilty of exactly the kind of tone-deaf gatekeeping that Cobain had been fighting his entire career. Others say the title was a deliberate provocation. That Cobain, who was sophisticated, who understood media, who knew exactly how things would land, chose that title because he wanted the reaction. That there's a line between provocative art and deliberate inflammatory language, and that line was crossed. There are different versions of this story. And I'm not here to tell you which one is right, but here's what I can tell you. At the 1993 MTV VMAs, Nirvana was specifically and explicitly warned not to open their performance with Rape Me. Cobain walked to the microphone. He played the opening riff. He watched the producers in the wings absolutely lose their minds, and then he switched to Lithium. He just wanted to see what they'd do. He wanted to show you in real time how much power the song had over people who hadn't even heard the whole thing yet. That moment right there, that's why Rape Me isn't just a song. It's a piece of living cultural history. It showed you in 30 seconds on a live award show exactly how afraid institutions were of what rock music could say. And it showed you that Cobain knew it, and he used it. That's why this song is on this list. That's number 5. Coming up, an artist who figured out that institutional panic was the most powerful marketing tool in the music industry, and he used it better than anyone. Number 4, Marilyn Manson, The Beautiful People. There's a version of the mid-1990s where rock music becomes slightly safer. Alternative goes mainstream. Grunge softens into post-grunge. Things get a bit more polished, a bit more radio-friendly, and then Marilyn Manson releases Antichrist Superstar and absolutely refuses to let any of that happen. The Beautiful People was produced by Trent Reznor and Manson and released on Nothing Records and Interscope in 1996. It was recorded at Criteria Studios in Miami. The Antichrist Superstar album was a full theatrical concept, a story of a figure rising through darkness to power, built around industrial metal, inverted Christian imagery, and a stage show designed to look like a fascist rally being mocked from the inside. Radio stations across the US and UK refused to play it. But the more significant response was coming from local government. City councils in multiple American cities passed formal ordinances attempting to prevent Manson from performing live. Mayors issued public statements. There were calls for criminal investigations into the band's activities. Concert venues were pressured by local police and politicians to cancel shows. It reached Congress. There were formal Senate-level discussions about Manson's content and whether it constituted a threat to public morality. The band was under more organized, sustained government pressure than any rock act since the Parents Music Resource Center hearings of the 1980s. Marilyn Manson personally appeared before Senate discussions on music censorship in 1997. He showed up, he sat down. He made his case calmly, precisely, with full composure. The man the media had spent 2 years describing as a genuine threat to civilization sat in front of senators and spoke about the history of art and provocation with more clarity than most of the people questioning him. The contrast between the monster in the headlines and the person in the room was something journalists who were there have never quite forgotten. Manson understood something that none of the other artists on this list had fully figured out. The ban was the marketing. Every city council protest was a news story. Every Senate discussion was free advertising. Every attempt to shut him down made more people want to know what the fuss was about. He didn't fight the institutional panic. He fed it. He built a career on it. And the institutions lined up to help him over and over again without ever realizing what they were doing. That's number 4. The top 3 are where things get historically significant. A video band that accidentally created one of the greatest pieces of music film ever made. A protest anthem that became a Christmas number 1 17 years after it was banned. And at number 1, the song that brought the full machinery of the United States government into a music fight. Number 3, 9 Inch Nails, Closer.
You let me penetrate you.
I want you to try and imagine hearing Closer for the first time in 1994 with no warning, no context, just the song starting, that mechanical pulse, that groove that shouldn't work but absolutely does. Trent Reznor's voice doing something you've never heard a rock vocalist do before, and then the chorus lands, and if you were anywhere near a radio or a TV at that moment, the institution you were listening to immediately wanted to pretend it had never happened. Closer was produced by Reznor and Flood and released on Nothing Records and Interscope in 1994 from the Downward Spiral, an album recorded in the house where the Tate murders took place, which is a whole other story. The song was an immediate commercial success despite everything that was about to happen to it. The video was directed by Mark Romanek and is considered one of the most visually significant music videos ever made. It contained sadomasochistic imagery, a crucified monkey, medical and surgical equipment, and explicit visual content that MTV's standards department described as entirely unbroadcastable. MTV banned it completely with no exceptions. After prolonged negotiation, MTV agreed to air a heavily edited version, but with a specific condition. Wherever content was removed, the words "scene missing" would appear on screen. The censored version ran with regular on-screen text, reminding every viewer in real time that they were watching a version with things cut out of it. It became one of the most talked about music videos of the decade, partly because of the content. He's partly because of the extraordinary decision to make the censorship itself visible. Mark Romanek sourced real bones and authentic medical props for the video. Nothing you see in it is fake in the way film props are usually fake. He wanted the discomfort to be genuine, to not be something the viewer could dismiss as theatrical. That commitment to physical reality is part of why the video still feels so unsettling 30 years later. Reznor has said consistently that Closer is about spiritual emptiness and self-destruction, not a sex song. The explicit imagery was a vehicle for discomfort designed to make you feel as degraded and hollow as the narrator of the song feels about himself. The band stripped the song of its intended emotional context and turned it into something more sensational than it was meant to be. Ironically, while the scene missing version, the censored one may have done more for the song's legacy than an uncensored broadcast ever would have. The gaps made people desperate to find the original, and they did. That's number 3. 2 left, and these are the ones that crossed from music controversy into real political history. Number 2, Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow. You're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history, and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful. Number 1, Body Count. Cop Killer. I need to tell you something first. Body Count is a heavy metal band. That fact was almost completely erased during the controversy that followed this song, and that erasure matters, and we're going to come back to it. Ice-T grew up in Los Angeles. He'd been writing about street life and systemic injustice for years, but Body Count was something different. This was metal. This was the music he'd loved as a teenager, the Sabbath, and Hendrix and Priest that nobody expected him to be into. And in 1992, with Los Angeles burning and the Rodney King verdict having just told an entire community that the law did not apply equally to them, he wrote a song about what that rage looked like at its absolute extreme. Cop Killer was released on Sire Records and Warner Brothers in 1992. It was written by Ice-T and Ernie C. You're the lead guitarist of Body Count. The song describes in first-person graphic detail killing a police officer. It is brutal and unambiguous. Ice-T did not soften it. He did not frame it. He put the most extreme version of a community's rage into music and released it into a city that was already on fire. The institutional response was unlike anything in the history of rock music. President George Herbert Walker Bush publicly condemned the song. Vice President Dan Quayle went on national television demanding that Time Warner pull the album from stores. 60 separate law enforcement organizations across the United States, 60 coordinated a national boycott of Time Warner, not just the album. The entire company, books, films, television programs, other musicians on the roster, all of it threatened.
Fuck the police, let me hear you. Fuck the police, don't be afraid.
Time Warner shareholders were pressured at annual meetings. The company's stock was directly affected. Police unions threatened to divest pension funds from Time Warner holdings. The pressure was financial, political, and relentless. Eventually, Ice-T made a decision that surprised the whole industry. He asked Time Warner to voluntarily remove the album from stores, not because of any legal obligation, not because he had changed his mind about the song, but because the sustained corporate pressure was beginning to threaten the livelihoods of other artists on the label, artists who had nothing to do with Cop Killer and were watching their careers get caught in the crossfire. Ice-T drew the comparison himself directly, publicly. And he pointed to Johnny Cash singing Folsom Prison Blues and the line about shooting a man in Reno just to watch him die.
I want you to be so loud that you scare the shit out of the cops outside.
He pointed to the entire tradition of first-person murder ballads in American music. He asked why those songs were considered classic Americana while Cop Killer was considered a public emergency. He didn't get a satisfying answer, because the answer was not really about the first-person fictional framing. The answer was about who was doing the singing. Here's the thing that history has almost completely lost. Body Count is a metal band, a heavy metal band.
When the show's over, here we go, ready? But tonight,
the song was categorized in almost every political speech, almost every news report, almost every government statement as gangsta rap. Some people say that framing was deliberate, that applying the rap label made it easier to dismiss, easier to isolate, easier to treat as something outside the mainstream rock tradition and therefore more threatening. Others say the politicians genuinely didn't know what genre they were dealing with. That they heard a black man's voice singing about killing a police officer and the genre label never even registered. There are different versions of this story. I'm not going to tell you which one is right, but I'll tell you this. The most powerful government response in the entire history of rock music, the vice president, the president, 60 law enforcement organizations, congressional attention, corporate financial pressure was directed at a heavy metal song.
that you scare the shit out of the cops outside, and they won't fuck with.
A metal song with guitar riffs and a drum kit and a full band that had grown up on the same music you grew up on. And the artist who wrote it had to make a decision that no artist should ever have to make. Give up your song to protect people who had nothing to do with it. That's not just music history, that is American history. And it happened because a rock song told a truth that powerful people did not want told. That's why Cop Killer is #1.